וישלח יעקב מלאכים לפניו אל עשיו אחי, ארץ סיר שדה אדום. Jacob sent angels ahead to Esau his brother in the land of Seir, the field of Edom. Verse 3, and Jacob sent angels before Esau. So Seir is the country of Edom. The land of Seir is in the Arabah, between the seas, between the Dead Sea and the Red Sea. The other sea over there is the Med Sea. And of course, there's a Galilee. Edom includes the land of the Nabateans in the city of Rock, Petra. So who is Jacob taking to the promised land? His wives, their children, the seed Abraham promised him, going into the land Elohim promised Abraham. So this gives him the authority to send angels. This is now a people, the future tribes, the heritage and legacy of the promise. Verse 4, and he commanded them to say, thus shall ye speak unto Adoni Esau. Notice it's Adoni and not Adonai. Adoni means my Adonai. Jacob respected and likely feared his brother, but he still respected him, calling him my Lord, or Ani Adoni, not Ani Adonai. He informed Esau that he's been hanging out with Uncle Laban since he left. Verse 5, and I have oxen, mules, flocks, and men servants, and women servants, and I have sent to tell Ani Adonai, Adoni, that I may find grace in thy sight. Jacob was hoping Esau would accept his gifts to atone for the differences they had had. And he remembered his father Isaac's blessing when he left for Haran. A couple of parshas back, Genesis 28:3. And Elohim Sabaoth bless thee, and make thee fruitful, and multiply thee, that thou mayest be a multitude of people. And give thee the blessing of Abraham to thee, to thy seed, with thee, that thou mayest inherit the land, wherein thou art a stranger, which Elohim gave unto Abraham. Back to chapter 32, verse 6. And the messengers returned to Jacob, saying, we came to thy brother Esau, and also he came to meet thee, and 400 men with him. Then Jacob was greatly afraid and distressed, and he divided the people that was with him, and the flocks and the herds and the camels into 2 bands, and said, if Esau come to one company and smite it, then the other company which is left shall escape. So here comes his big brother with 400 men. Pretty intimidating. He separated them into 2 camps, Mahanaim. Maybe he wanted to help Adonai by dividing them, so if Esau takes one out, there's still the seed to fulfill the promise. Jacob is banking on the vow that he made at Hamakom in Genesis 28. Verse 13 says, and behold, Yahweh stood above it. This is when he was having the dream of the ladder. And said, I am Yahweh Elohim of Abraham thy father, and the Elohim of Isaac. The land wherein thou liest, to thee I will give thee, and to thy seed. And thy seed shall be as the dust of the earth, and shall spread about to the west, and to the east, and to the north, and to the south. And thee and thy seed shall in all the families of the earth be blessed. Verse 15, and I am with thee, and will keep thee in all places whither thou goest, and will bring thee again into this land. For I will not leave thee, until I have done what I have spoken of thee. Verse 20, and Jacob vowed a vow, saying, if Elohim will be with me and will keep me in this way, that I go, Adhere Yahweh, and will give me bread to eat and raiment to put on, so that I may come again or return safely to my father's house in peace, in atonement. Then shall Yahweh be my Elohim. When we have the blessing, in verse 15, that Yahweh tells Jacob, I am with thee. I will keep thee. I will bring thee again, for I will not leave thee. He had the security that the journey he was going on was going to result in a safe return to his father's land. And then verse 21 says, when I return to my father's house in peace. This sounds like it's anticipation of his encounter with Esau. Back to chapter 32, and Jacob said, O Elohim, my father Abraham, and Elohim of my father Isaac, Yahweh, which saidest unto me, return unto thy country and to thy kindred, and I will deal with thee. So here's Jacob in a trap. Laban chased Jacob out of Babylon, while Esau was blocking Jacob from entering Canaan. Jacob had been directed by Adonai to return to Canaan. In chapter 31, verse 3, again in verse 9. Verse 9, and Jacob said, O Elohim of my father Abraham, Elohim of my father Isaac, Yahweh, which saidest unto me, return unto thy country and unto thy kindred, and I will and I will deal with thee. He goes on to pray, which is probably appropriate for the situation. I'm not worthy of the least of all these mercies, remembering back to his days before he became Israel, the days of his name Jacob as a deceiver, and of all the truth, emet, chesed, grace, which thou hast showed unto thy servant. For with my staff I passed over this Jordan, and now I am become two bands, Mahanaim. Yahweh directs our steps. He has sent me here to the olive tree. Before that, he sent me other places, many places. This church, that church, leaving, going to another place, or no place at all, wandering. This denomination, that denomination, gaining ground, losing ground. Along the way, learning things, and sometimes having to unlearn things. Making mistakes, learning from them. So Jacob did what any faithful, righteous man would do. He prayed. Verses 9 and 10. He continues in verses 11 and 12. Hebrews 8:8 talks about the two camps. For finding fault with them, he said, behold, the days come, said Elohim, when I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah. Mahanaim, two camps. He continues praying in verse 11, deliver me, I pray thee, from the hand of my brother, from the hand of Esau, for I fear him, lest he will come and smite me and the mother with the children. Verse 12, and you, Yahweh, had said, I will surely do thee good, and make thy seed as the sand of the sea, which cannot be numbered for multitude. So he's banking on that promise that Yahweh made to him. Like the Israelites encounter leaving Egypt en route to Canaan, Yahweh protects his people from their enemies. Jacob sent angels, Malachaim. Jacob sent angels. Why angels? And why not a slave messenger? What would Esau have done to a slave? In this case, did it diffuse Esau's hatred? Was it to impress him or to terrify him? Did the angels tell Jacob, "We'll go ahead of you"? No, in verse 5 he says he charged them, saying, he gave them what to say to his brother, verbatim. He gave him the message referring to Esau as my lord, Ani Adoni, and referring to himself as his servant. Calling Esau Adoni sounds like he has high esteem for him. On the other hand, is it a sign of weakness or fear? Or, on the other hand, is it a strategy for battle? Jacob said he had been sojourning with Laban. His time there wasn't easy. He was deceived, but he matured enough to acquire a herd and a people. Did Esau know Jacob had just come from running from Laban? All this adversity caused Jacob to pray humbly and sincerely. What lesson of faith did they have to learn before they saw the hand of Elohim move on their behalf? Isaiah 43, 1-3. But now, thus saith Yahweh, that created thee, O Jacob, and he that formed thee, O Israel, fear not, for I have redeemed thee. I have called thee by name, thou art mine. When thou passest through the waters, I will be with thee. And through the rivers, they shall not overflow thee. And when thou walkest through the fire, thou shalt not be burned, neither shall the flame kindle upon thee. For I am Yahweh your Elohim, the Holy One of Israel, thy Savior, Yeshua. So far in chapter 32 is a study on how Jacob dealt with his trials. How often do we throw everything we have at the problem that we're facing? Does Yahweh's grace cover us in such situations? Who are we standing with, him, or are we trying to fix it ourselves? Verse 13, and he lodged there that same night and took that which came to his hand, a present for Esau his brother. This abundance that came from his hand, he worked for it. So it means much more than if it was given to him. It was a worthy gift for his older brother. So he accumulated the gift, and in verse 16, sent it with his servants ahead of him. We started the service today with our brother Miguelito and Zach and Don. We sent them forward ahead of us. When the Israelites would go to battle, the musicians and the dancers would go ahead of the army. Verse 18, and thou shalt say, they be thy servant Jacob's. It is a present sent unto Ani Adoni, Esau, and behold, also he is behind us. Verse 20, and say moreover, behold, thy servant Jacob is behind us, for he said that I will appease him. He's atoning for their past differences. He wants to heal their relationship. I will appease him with the present that goeth before me, and afterwards I will see his face. Peradventure he will accept me. So went the present over before him, and himself lodged that night in the company. As he rose up that night, and took his 2 wives and his 2 women servants and his 11 sons, and passed over the ford Jabbok. And he took them and sent them over the brook, and sent over that he had. And Jacob was left alone. And there wrestled a man with him until the break of day. And when he saw that he prevailed not against him, he touched the hollow of his thigh, and the hollow of Jacob's thigh was out of joint, as he wrestled with him. And he said, let me go, for the day breaketh. And he said, I will not let thee go, except thou bless me. And he said unto him, What is thy name? And he said, Jacob. And he said, Thy name shall be called no more Jacob, but Israel. For as a prince thou hast power with Elohim and with men, and hast prevailed. And Jacob asked him and said, Tell me, I pray thee, thy name. And he said, Wherefore is it that thou dost ask after my name? And he blessed him. And Jacob called the name of the place Peniel. For I have seen Elohim face to face, and my life is preserved. In Matthew 26:36-46, Then cometh Yeshua with them into a place called Gethsemane, and saith unto the disciples, Sit ye here, while I go and pray yonder. And he took with him Peter and the two sons of Zebedee, and began to be sorrowful and very heavy. Then saith he unto them, My soul is exceedingly sorrowful, even unto death. Tarry ye here. So Yeshua is now here in Gethsemane, not wrestling with an angel, but wrestling with himself. In Jabuk, some versions say he wrestled with Aleph Yud Shin Ish, or Aleph Yud Shin, which Ish in Hebrew means man. Others say angel. Hosea 12:4. It could have been Yeshua. So this challenger perceived that he could not overcome Jacob. Jacob was tenacious. He would not give up. In verse 27, Jacob asks his name. Our name is our character. Supplanter, deceiver, heel catcher, or take hold of. He took hold of Esau's heel. Jacob's character was to take hold of things. Esau's heel, his birthright, his blessing. Laban's daughter, and then daughters, and the flocks that he was able to acquire. His father, Abraham, and grandfather Isaac's blessing, the land, the seed, and the promise. And now he took hold of the man and wouldn't give up. Verse 28, the man changes Jacob's name to Israel, and the man blessed him in verse 30. At Hamakom, that place. He not only changed his name, but he changed Jacob, his halakha, his walk, literally and figuratively, and his perspective. Yah sometimes forces us into situations where we literally have to come to the end of our rope and rely solely on him to deliver us from our enemies. Are we learning to let go and let Adonai, as the old saying goes, to walk by faith and not by sight, to trust and obey? Genesis 32 is a prophetic shadow picture of how Jacob's descendants will come back into their land of their inheritance prior to Yeshua's return. They will be divided into two camps as they enter into the land of Israel, and will have to confront Esau, many of whose descendants comprise the modern Palestinian Arabs who will be blocking the way. Two camps. Could it be the Jews and the Christians? I'm talking about our return to the land. Ephraim and Judah, returning out of spiritual Babylon, where they have been in servitude to the Babylonian world system, even as Jacob was a servant to Laban. They will not defeat Esau through appeasement. We saw that in verse 20. Appeasement got Israel nowhere except poor. They tried trading land for peace, and all they got was more chaos, more demands for more land, and no peace. As our father Jacob did, so we too will have to wrestle to return to the promised land. We must prevail with Yahweh and demonstrate to him that we are serious about wanting to possess our promised inheritance. At the same time, overcome the carnal man within us with our pride and self-reliance, with faith in the Abrahamic covenant promises of Yahweh. The good news is the kingdom of Israel will arise. Jacob will get transformed into Israel. How can we be sure of this? It's written. Yahweh's word. Remember Obadiah? Elohim's wrath is against Esau and Edom, but Obadiah's story was different. He was a descendant of an Edomite, yet he was humble, not haughty. Esau lived with two righteous people, Isaac and Rebekah, patriarch and matriarch. On the other hand, Obadiah lived with two unrighteous people, Ahab and Jezebel. Yet he remained righteous and risked his life to shelter and feed the 100 remaining prophets. Edom's time will end. His downfall will occur during the Messianic times. Verse 17 of Obadiah, on Mount Zion there shall be a remnant, and it shall become holy. Despite all of Israel's travails, suffering, persecution, failures, Israel, us, and Eretz Israel will survive. And Edom will be judged and cast down. Verse 8. And the house of Esau like straw, they will kindle among them and consume them, and there will be no survivor of the house of Esau, for Yahweh has spoken. We talk about fear and the dilemmas we're going through, but we have faith. We don't have fear. It tells you in Obadiah, there will be no survivors of the house of Esau. That's not only over on Edom, between the seas, but wherever we encounter enemies in our walk. Chapter 33 begins with, and Jacob lifted his eyes and looked, and behold, Esau came, and with him 400 men. He divided the children unto Leah and unto Rachel, and unto the two handmaids. And he put the handmaids and the children foremost, and Leah and her children after, and Rachel and Joseph hindermost. And he passed over before them and bowed himself to the ground 7 times until he came near his brother. Verse 4, and Esau ran to meet him and embraced him and fell on his neck and kissed him, and they wept. Verse 10, and Jacob said, Nay, I pray thee that I have now found grace in thy sight. Then receive my present at thy hand, for therefore I have seen thy face, as though I had seen the face of Elohim, and thou wast pleased with me. Take, I pray thee, my blessing that is brought to thee, because Elohim hath dealt graciously with me, and because I have enough. And he urged him, and he took it. And he said, Let us take our journey, and let us go, and I will go before thee. And he said unto him, My Adoni knoweth that the children are tender, and the flocks and the herds are young with me, and if men should overdrive them one day, all the flocks will dry. Let my Adoni, I pray thee, pass over before his servant, and I will lead on softly, according as the cattle that goeth before me, and the children are able to endure, until I come unto my Adoni in Seir. He said he was going ahead softly. He wasn't going to charge forward, make problems. He was going to go in peace. He was being a good steward, taking care of the children and the flocks. So verse 15, and Esau said, Let me now leave with thee some of the folk that are with me, And he said, what needeth it? Let me find grace in thy sight of my Adonai. So Esau returned that day on his way to Seir, and Jacob journeyed to Sukkot. Sukkot? Why did they call it Sukkot? I lost my place. And built him a house and made booths for his cattle. Therefore the name of the place is called Sukkot. And Jacob came to Shalom, a city of Shechem, which is in the land of Canaan. And he came from Padan Aram and pitched his tent before the city. And he bought a parcel of a field where he had spread his tent at the hand of the children of Hamor, Shechem's father, for 100 pieces of money. The Samaritans in that area criticized him for paying 100 pieces of money for that property. They said Samaritans should have paid him to take it from them. So there he erected an altar and called it Elohi Israel, to Elohim of Israel. So we see an example of a man who left in shame after what he took from his brother, and his brother threatening his life, to go back and reconnect with his family, his uncle Laban. His parents didn't want him to take a wife from Canaan, so he went to the land of his ancestors, and there he found his bride. And of course he had to take her sister as well. But he persevered. He was in love with Rebecca, so he stayed and satisfied his uncle. In the process, he learned a trade, becoming a shepherd, built a following, the people that would become the seed of the tribes of Israel, and did what Adonai had instructed him, to go back to his home. When we study the Parsha, I read Obadiah, or part of Obadiah, part of the Haftorah. And the Haftorah from Hosea talks about a people that have turned their back on Adonai. We had an excellent discussion on Wednesday night, and it gives us hope after all that Hosea went through. He encountered Elohim's messenger, and he built a house of Elohim, Bethel. He continued to disciple Ephraim and was able to return him from worshiping idols and back to his faith. I've seen a few times recently where, in reference to Ephraim as a merchant, a Canaanite is a merchant. And it has a meaning here for Ephraim. He became very prosperous through merchandising. Sometimes, not always honestly. But Hosea rescued him from that. He became where Adonai wanted him to be, leading his children back to the Torah. The lesson of Jacob and his trials and his return to his home was the beginning of what we have here on the wall, where we all descended. Do we know which banner is ours? Not yet. We will know when the New Jerusalem comes, and we will be directed to the gate of our tribe to enter the New Jerusalem. We need to keep that hope and prepare ourselves. A lot of things have happened in the last 10 months, and I think this is a valuable lesson about being prepared. We need to be prepared because we don't know when our time is coming, first of all, but we don't know when it'll be our turn to go and be home and finish our service here as servants of Yahweh, servants of Yeshua, and serve Him in this lifetime, in this tent, in this place, and then our ultimate joy when we leave this tent, we get to go be with Him. What a better blessing to have than that. So I encourage you all to continue studying and keep an open mind. He gives us messages. We need to be truchas. We need to be listening. We need to be alert. I was looking at my notes, and how many of you were here on December 17th of 2016? I did this same teaching 4 years ago. So what I got from it is that a lot has changed in 4 years. We all need to be continuously growing and getting closer to Adonai and being thankful for where we're at. At our men's meeting, I had the privilege of leading the discussion, and it's one thing I encourage all young men and old men. Surround yourself with righteous men. And I encourage us as a family, surround yourself with this family. We're like-minded, and we're here for each other. Those that aren't able to make it, I encourage you to stay in touch with them. It's very discouraging when we have all this technology and all you got to do is push a couple buttons and boom, you can talk to somebody. Let's make that effort. Let's stay in touch with our brothers and sisters and give them encouragement. and let them know that we're all here for them. Father, we come before you today. Let's go ahead and stand, amen. To discern what is talked about here today, but be Bereans and search the scriptures. See what it's telling you. We're all unique. We all have a special place in Elohim's heart. I recall hearing sermons and feeling like the pastor was talking directly to me. I recall studying a devotional, and I felt like it was directed to me, but it's going out to millions of people. He interprets it for each of us to discern and to learn and grow from it. Be diligent in your study. Be strong in your faith. Be committed in your walk. And be loving for those that you meet. Show them leor. Show them the light of Elohim that we've been able to instill in ourselves from the Torah as he instructed. Shavua Tov. Have a blessed week. Be safe. Be smart. Protect yourself. And until we meet again. Thank you, Father.
Shalom, shalom. Welcome to Olive Tree Fellowship and Torah Unleashed Ministries. Thank you for joining us on our channel. If you have enjoyed this teaching and would like to see more, please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Don't forget to click the notification bell so that you can be notified when we have new videos. If you would like to support Olive Tree Fellowship and Torah Unleashed Ministries, please visit us at olivetreefellowship.com or TorahUnleashed.org. We thank you for your past support and hope to continue with you. Shalom, shalom. Have a good day. Shalom, shalom y bienvenidos a Olive Tree y a la Torah desatada. Les doy gracias a ustedes y a Adonai por su apoyo que nos han dado aquí. Y si quieren continuar a hacer una donación, pueden ir aquí en TorahUnleashed.org o en olivetreefellowship.com y ahí pueden dar una donación. Su apoyo, su ayuda es importante en estos días. Shalom, shalom.